A few seasons passed quietly. In that time, Jineon's energy core finally manifested. He engraved survival essential martial arts into his very body, mastering the enlightened mobility art, the enlightened body art, rapid stride, and most impressively, the white lightning 10-phase art. So far, he had reached the 4th phase, but even then, it wasn't enough. One day, Ma Kinseop of the guard squad arrived, addressing him respectfully as young master Jineon. He brought a letter from the main clan. Jineon casually took it and began reading, noting that it said his father had collapsed and was now bedridden. But the letter didn't explain why. Ma Kinseop hesitated, then admitted it was likely due to the Ouyang clan. Under the guise of protection fees, their tributes had snowballed into an unbearable burden. Jineon asked if the Ouyang clan had done anything to justify raising those fees. Ma Kinseop angrily said they had done nothing and recounted how even when the little deity sect tried to impose ridiculous trade taxes, the Ouyang clan ignored them, claiming they only dealt with the Yunha merchant group's main branch. Jineon recalled the name Ouyang, a powerful figure even he had heard of. He calmly concluded that dealing with the Ouyang clan might resolve everything. But Ma Kinseop added there was another reason his father collapsed. He witnessed a sword fight between Jineon's 2 younger brothers, the 2nd and 3rd sons. That incident sent him into shock. Jineon placed a hand on his head, disbelieving. He couldn't believe they fought in front of the merchant group's leader. Ma Kinseop assured him it wouldn't bring harm to him personally, but Jineon interrupted. He refused to sit back and do nothing. He handed the letter back and declared he would go himself. Later, at the guard office, Ma Kinseop slammed a table in disbelief, raving that Jineon had changed completely. The other guards laughed, mocking the idea of the infamous good-for-nothing Jineon becoming a martial artist. That's when Han Yip, the vice-captain of the guard squad, silently appeared behind one of the mocking guards, grabbing his head. He asked Ma Kinseop if Jineon had truly regained his health. When Mok said yes, Han Yip remembered that Jineon had always had a fine physique. He asked when the young master would arrive, and as if on cue, an announcement rang out. Young master Jineon had returned. Outside the estate, Jineon looked around in awe. The Yunha merchant group was much grander than he imagined. Jineon realized Li Jineon hadn't just been well off, he had been born into wealth. He told his servant girls to rest while he went to visit his father. As he approached, he wondered why no one had welcomed him. Suddenly, guards lined up and shouted in unison, congratulating him on his safe return. Han Yip bowed, introduced himself formally, and remarked how different Jineon looked. A red-haired guard grumbled internally, unable to understand why the vice-captain would humble himself to someone who once looked down on them. Jineon greeted them with a calm hand gesture, thanking them for the welcome. The guards were stunned. The good-for-nothing had actually greeted them. Ma Kinseop confirmed again that Jineon had truly changed. Han Yip, silently observing, thought to himself that Jineon didn't feel like an enemy anymore. He felt like an ally. Han Yip informed Jineon that his father had been told of his return. Jineon nodded in thanks. Then came an arrogant voice. Li Gion, the 3rd son, placed a hand on Jineon's shoulder and mocked him as the perverted Jineon. Noticing the change in Jineon's expression, Gion taunted him further, surprised to see Jineon glare. Han Yip worried things would escalate. But Jineon calmly removed his brother's hand, reminding him they had just reunited. Gion retaliated by slapping Han Yip and accusing him of disrespect. Jineon watched silently. Then, without warning, he raised his hand toward Gion's face. Gion barked, asking what he was doing, only to be slapped so hard he staggered backward. Jineon placed a firm hand on his brother's shoulder and, with a smile, said he had been excited to come back. His grip forced Gion to his knees in pain. Screaming, Gion cursed him, but Jineon only smiled, saying he should call him Big Brother. Nearby, Li Weian, the 2nd son and overseer, heard the ruckus and came to investigate. When he arrived, he saw Jineon standing tall while Gion knelt. Weian greeted his older brother warmly, noticing how healthy he looked. Jin-eon asked about the bandage on Weian's hand and learned it was from Gion. Without a word, he slapped Gion again. Ouyang insisted it wasn't serious, but Jineon warned Gion never to raise a sword against his older brother again if he wanted to avoid a beating. Gion, now humbled, agreed. Ouyang noted how much Jineon had changed. Back then, the most he could do was avoid a beating. Now he was giving them. He asked if something had happened at the safe house. Jin-eon deflected, noting the change casually. Then he noticed a stack of scrolls. Curious, he opened one and found it was a list of employees for an upcoming conference. His eyes narrowed when he saw the name Ouyang, who had recommended almost everyone, from the viceguard squad leader to gate guards. Jin-eon turned to his brothers and asked if either of them was working with the Ouyang clan. Both denied it instantly and passionately. Ouyang called the idea ridiculous, and Gion shouted he'd rather die than let outsiders take over their business. Jineon was satisfied. If that was true, then he wouldn't need to kill anyone. He asked if all the higher-ups would attend the conference tomorrow. When Ouyang confirmed it, Jineon calmly stated he would be attending too, and left to see their father. Both younger brothers were left wondering just what had happened to change him so drastically. Later, the guards announced the arrival of the eldest son. Inside, the merchant group leader Lee Seongman sat in bed, weakened. He asked if the noise outside was related. Jineon brushed it off, then asked about his health. Seongman admitted stress had taken its toll on his body. He looked at Jineon's face with surprise, noting how much he had changed. He asked if this really was his son. Jineon confirmed softly. Inwardly, he recalled how the original Jineon had seen this man as a towering figure, a great and noble father. But now, he looked small and weakened. Jineon reached out, telling his father not to worry. He would eliminate the source of his stress. When Seongman asked what he meant, Jineon only smiled and said not to worry. The next day, the conference hall was filled with important figures. Among them was Ouyang, who, the Yunha merchant group's guard squad leader and secretly a martial master of the Ouyang clan. One of his men whispered in surprise, seeing Jineon seated quietly in the corner. Ouyang who noticed too, assuming Jineon was anxious about his position. When Ouyang asked if there were any objections to the current decisions, Ouyang who interrupted. He offered to assign a personal guard for Jineon, pointing out that the eldest son still lacked one. The room fell into uneasy silence. Someone whispered that half the guard squad already belonged to the Ouyang clan. Another commented sarcastically that Ouyang who didn't seem to know when to stop. Suddenly, a teapot flew through the air and smashed near the speaker. Ouyang who claimed his hand slipped. Then he asked if anyone had objections to his suggestion. The room stayed silent. Then, Jineon raised his hand. He stepped forward and said he had a suggestion too. With unwavering eyes, he declared it was time to fire the guard squad leader, Ouyang who. Gasps filled the room. Ouyang who laughed in disbelief and asked if Jineon really thought he had the authority to say that. Jineon didn't reply. Instead, he smashed the table in front of Ouyang who with one clean, powerful strike. Ouyang who flinched. Jineon looked at him coldly and reminded him. The Yunha merchant group didn't belong to him. It belonged to Jineon.